Hey everybody, we are here in Fremont, Nebraska at RegeNErate Nebraska's free workshop, and we're here with Ficke and Nate Belcher, and they're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of transitioning from conventional agriculture to regenerative. So he's been coined the Graze Master here in Nebraska, and he's going to talk a little bit about his operation and where he gets that nickname.
Well, we trademarked our breed of cattle. We call them Graze Masters a few years ago, and it kind of stuck with me. I don't feel like I'm the Graze Master, but we have done things that certainly are going in that direction, improving things on the farm and stuff like that.
Okay, and Nate, can you talk a little bit about what your operation is and what you do?
Sure. So we specialize in cover crops and also soil fertility, holistic management, whether in row crops, animal production. So our goal really is how can we make really productive farming systems that get better and better every year.
Okay. And one of the things that Dell here has talked about as one of the main benefits to transitioning to regenerative agriculture is cutting out the costs of machinery payments. Can you talk a little bit about that, Dell?
Yeah, certainly a few years ago we had an excess amount of machinery payments, which were just part of the whole catastrophic craziness that was happening on our farm. So when we eliminate the high-cost implements, the fertilizers, the chemicals, the seed guy, you get a banker that actually understands what you're trying to do, which are few and far between. I have the best banker on earth. It's taken several years for me to actually training those, so we know all bankers can be trained in this, as well as all farmers in how we want to approach this regeneration type agriculture.
Okay. And another important aspect of transitioning to regenerative ag is not only rebuilding soil health, but also animal health. Can either of you speak to the benefits of bringing animals onto the land and how that affects the health of livestock?
I'll start on the animal health side, and Nate can talk about the soil health related to that. So even 10 years ago, we had huge veterinarian bills. We were confining our cattle into these muddy, dusty areas, which naturally were full of all kinds of things in the soil left over from 100 years of raising cattle or different livestock on our place. So when we start to change that and get those cattle back out on the land and get them in this prescribed grazing type deal, and then calving more in sync with nature, things like that, well, we've reduced our vet bills by over 80%. Our
Wow.
cattle are healthier, they're happier, and what they're doing for the soil, instead of us, having them accumulate all the manure and everything in the pens and hauling it out in a mechanical fashion, things like that, they distribute the manure and urine, which is beneficial. It's the way, it was intended to be. And it's really a no-brainer. I can't believe it took me that long, but Nate can talk on the soil health part.
Well, if you want to think of animal health, fundamentally comes from the soil. So if we have soils that are very healthy, a lot of biological activity, good nutrient cycling, good organic matter, we can easily raise higher yielding forages and crops, as well as more nutritional density in each one of those bites. So if every bite that cow takes has more minerals, more energy, we're ultimately going to have a healthier cow that can take less inputs. So it's a win-win. The more productive our soils become, the more productive our crops are that we grow on that, which equates to a healthy animal, and ultimately the end goal, which is healthy people. And if we really think of it from healthy people are at the peak of the iceberg, and everything else comes down from that, and it's just a cascade effect.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. I know one question I have that comes to mind is that one of the arguments I hear against bringing animals back into the landscape here in the Midwest is that there's not enough land. And we all know that farmland is really expensive here in the Midwest. So that's obviously a challenge. How do we overcome that?
Well, there's two things that they're going to talk about why they can't bring cattle there. They're going to talk about there's not enough land to do it that way like we used to do it, and they're going to increase compaction on their land. Those are two wives' tales. They don't want to give up ground that they're actually not doing anything with, but depleting the soil, and they don't want to work to make it better. So if it by design, this next generation works from a tractor seat. So when you're doing an ultra-density grazing deal like we are and doing things like that, it equates to more work. It equates also to healthier communities and to healthier people on the farm and more people back on the farm. So, I mean, everyone can throw all these different deals out on why it can't work, but it's just their only hurdle is right between their ears. It's their own brain that's the hurdle in all this.
Do you want me to add to that? As we're that argument doesn't hold true, but if you were to think of it from a production standpoint, if we can maximize each acre, which we're not doing even close to, you can ultimately run more animals on that ground, raise more crops, stacking enterprises. So it really is to bust argument. If we want to manage it in our current paradigm, the way we do it right now, if we want to change that and maximize each acre, turning crop ground that's going to go to feed animals anyway and just running animals across that so that cows can eat grass, which is what they're naturally built to do, you can double, triple, quadruple the productivity, if not more in some instances. So land availability becomes a non-issue really quick.
Wow, okay, very interesting. One final thing that I wanted to ask Nate about here is that when we were in Lincoln at the workshop, he made a really interesting comment about what consumers can do to support these environmentally friendly farming practices. And just an important reminder that consumers do have a lot of power. And what was that again, Nate, that you said?
Everything we do is for the consumers. So this is kind of a cliche comment, but when consumers spend their dollars where it matters and in markets that they believe in, ultimately that trickles down to things such as soil health and clean water, clean air, less chemicals. So yes, some of this stuff may be a little more expensive. I think that will change as a consumer. If we spend our dollars with those types of producers that are implementing those practices to regenerate their land, ultimately, as that land becomes more productive, it reduces the cost of the producer, and all of a sudden we can get a really premium product at even less of a cost than what we're paying now. So it's a win-win. As a consumer, we're investing in our future so that we can get a more premium product down the road at an affordable price. And that's really the holy grail.
Okay, and if people want to learn more about each of your operations, they can visit fickecattle.com, and Nate's website is?
It is greenacrescovercrops.com and also covercropexchange.com.
And for more updates on the regeneration movement, you can follow us on Twitter at regeneration_IN. We're also on Facebook and Instagram too.